Tonight, a family in a small town in Saskatchewan are left in shock after an 18-year-old was shot and killed early Sunday morning. Also, Canada's two major railways could be shut down later this week. Plus,
I never want to go out there and do that for the guys, but it's like I said, it happened. I can't change it.
The Riders and their kicker are back to practice after losing to Montreal.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, August 19th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. We begin tonight in Wolseley, just east of Regina. The town and a family left in shock after an 18-year-old was killed at her birthday party. At approximately 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, Indian Head RCMP were called to a home in Wolseley for the report of a shooting. Keilia Windigo was declared dead by EMS at the scene. She just graduated from high school in June. RCMP arrested a youth male at the scene. A house on Maple Street is taped off, being held as a crime scene by the RCMP. The town's mayor says Windigo's family moved to Wolseley less than a year ago.
Really, my condolences go out on behalf of the town to the family, and I cannot even imagine what they're going through right now. What we do know is that it has affected the community. Neighbors are quite concerned, and they don't know what's going on, so that's the biggest thing. My first thoughts are shock, disbelief, can't understand why and what happened. It just absolutely makes me feel ill.
RCMP say the teen male is from Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation, and because of his age, he can't be named. He's facing 10 charges, including 1 count of manslaughter with a firearm and 6 counts of weapons possession contrary to order. He appeared in provincial court today and will be back in court in Fort Qu'Appelle on Thursday. In the meantime, Mayor Hill says if the family needs any support, the town of Wolseley will be there for them. A coroner's inquest is underway in Regina, looking into the death of 31-year-old Nicole Lafontaine. She died last summer after falling out of a 5th-story window. Alexander Kwan reports.
A 6-person jury at the Royal Hotel in Regina is hearing evidence about the death of a 31-year-old woman. Just over a year ago, Nicole Lafontaine died in the early hours of July 22nd. She fell out of a window at the YWCA building in downtown Regina. Lafontaine was staying there for a week before her death. The jury has been told it was part of an agreement between social services and the YWCA to help women experiencing homelessness. Police officers testified they were called at 2:45 in the morning. When they arrived, Lafontaine was found face down on the east side of the building. She had a head wound and was breathing. Lafontaine was taken to hospital by EMS, but died of her injuries in hospital. The jury has been told that Lafontaine was acting strangely before her death, off even. She was complaining about the room and saying that she wanted to get out. Lafontaine's roommate was so concerned that she went and got help from YWCA staff, but when they returned, Lafontaine had already opened the window. 4 women and 2 men have been selected to hear details of the case. Over 4 days, their job is to listen to what happened and determine if similar deaths could be prevented in the future. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
A pair of wildfires spanning wider than Saskatoon and Prince Albert combined has forced people in several northern communities to evacuate. That still includes Sandy Bay, a remote northern reserve about 500 kilometers northeast of Saskatoon. Today, the off-reserve village of Sandy Bay declared a state of emergency. Both are threatened by the Flanagan Fire. A wildfire also threatened the community of Birch Narrows, about 400 kilometers from Prince Albert. Evacuees say they are anxious to go home.
I was just worried about my home, whether I'm going to have one when I get back.
I know, kind of sad because I didn't want to leave because I know we're just going to come and be cooped up in these hotel rooms. It's going to bother our mental health and everything. And yeah, it's just kind of mad leaving. It's like, how can they let a fire get that close to a community until a point where it's dangerous?
Imagine staring at a wall of fire coming towards the community. We love our community. It's where we grew up. It's where we have so much memories. And if we were to lose that, we'd be lost.
There are 70 active wildfires in the province. We're also supporting 3 elsewhere. 8 of the fires have not been contained. That means crews are working on suppression, but the fires are expected to grow. Canada's 2 major railways could be shut down later this week. Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City say workers will be locked out Thursday, and the union says it's ready for a strike. Negotiation between the companies and its workers are at a standstill. The Teamsters Union is accusing the companies of trying to gut safety provisions. One American freight forwarder is already diverting some of its cargo away from Canadian ports. A shutdown could hurt Canadian businesses that rely on rail to move goods and supplies, and it would affect passenger service as well. Now, it's the feds that have the power to step in and prevent a work stoppage, but so far there's no sign that will happen. The federal minister of labor is set to be in Calgary on Wednesday to meet with some of the parties involved, but in a statement today, Steve McKinnon kept the onus on them. He said, quote, "These collective bargaining negotiations belong to CN Rail, CPKC, and the TCRC, that's the union, workers alone, but their effects will be borne by all Canadians." A place where young people in Saskatoon got help finding a job and finding themselves is no more. Saskatoon Community Youth Arts Programming has helped youth for more than 2 decades. Pratush Dayal reports.
Many of these massive murals around Saskatoon have been painted by people who were part of a non-profit art-based organization. But after 23 years, the Saskatoon Community Youth Arts Programming, or SkyApp, is closed.
We found since COVID, there was less opportunities in the granting process. So we failed to secure any long-term funding that would make us sustainable for the future.
On social media, there was an outpouring of messages, people sharing how much the programming helped them and what a difference it made in Saskatoon.
We use art as a tool for breaking down the barriers.
Because I was a 60 scoop artist or person, I didn't know much about my culture.
This Indigenous musician attended SkyApp in her early 20s.
At the time that I went there, I was struggling with addictions and homelessness, poverty. I feel that the SkyApp program has sort of put me on the right path to being who I am today. This painting is called Waiting for the Light. And it's just about knowing that the light comes from within.
Reed also sent her own kids to SkyApp and says the closure will leave a gap. She says it got kids off the street and helped some overcome addictions and heal through art.
I feel like it's going to create like a possible generation of lost students and artists and youth that might not have any other place to go.
It's a very sad day when SkyUp is closing due to lack of funding.
For this Saskatoon art therapist, it's not just the loss of the creative space. She's sad about losing an accessible place of safety and belonging for young people.
SkyUp was incredibly important because it provided that space for people, regardless of their background or their resources. They were all welcome and they could come in and make art, and there's a community.
Community members are hopeful that new programming will come through to fill the gap left by SkyApp. Pratush Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
As Canada's farming industry looks to sustainable ways of raising pigs, chickens, even fish, researchers in Saskatoon are experimenting with insect-based animal feed. As Alexander Silberman tells us, it could be a game changer.
This room especially is an adult cage room.
These flies may not look appetizing, but they could be key to feeding the animals that help feed the planet. As production of animal feed puts a major strain on land and water, insects are being proposed as an alternative. At a Saskatoon lab, this agriculture tech company is betting big on black soldier fly larvae.
So insect farming will be completely a new direction to make the sustainable protein.
The lab breeds the flies in a controlled environment. The flies lay eggs, which become larvae, and those are ground up to make high-protein animal feed.
Whoa, that's a lot of them.
How do you convince people to start feeding their farm animals this?
The end product will not look like this. End product will be dry and then looks like a powder.
Insect feed is more expensive, but many farmers say they're considering it since it's better for the planet.
it could ultimately mean some tremendous positive benefits that could extend far beyond our little postage stamp of a farm.
This BC farm became one of the first in Canada to feed insects to its chickens, but they faced challenges, lost their supplier, and are now trying to breed flies themselves.
Being pioneering, it really is like being the first people to drive an electric car. You might have the car, but there's no charging stations.
While it may be challenging, this expert says insect feed is better for the environment because flies grow in a small space and can eat food waste.
We want to be using land, which is our precious resource, to be growing food for human consumption rather than for the animals that we eat.
Duncan says insect food could be widely used in Canada within the next few years, once technology helps lower the cost. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Saskatoon.
You know, it was a nice day to get outside and escape what is usually the scorching sun. Warm today, some wind, some cloud cover, but it did make for a really nice day to enjoy your hobbies outdoors, whether you're cycling, running, or even taking photos. So, what's to come for this week? Tyreek Reed will have your forecast after the break. It was a rough weekend for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, more particularly for their kicker. In a game that ended 27-24 for Montreal, the Riders left 19 points on the field. The game Friday night in Regina featured 6 lead changes and 4 missed field goals by the Riders veteran kicker Brett Lawther. Montreal quarterback Davis Alexander managed to score a game-winning touchdown with 30 seconds left, and Lawther, with the chance to send it into OT as time expired, missed his 4th field goal from 48 yards out. The head coach says Lawther has put it all on himself, but he shouldn't.
You know, we made it very audible that, you know, there, and you watch it, there was a lot of stuff that, you know, we didn't really have to rely on Brett to get the game handled.
You know, I never want to go out there and do that for the guys, but it's like I said, it happened. I can't change it, and at this point, just trying to move on and get ready for the game Thursday. And all those guys, the coaches, players, organization has been great. So it's been, I guess, good in a sense with that. But for me, it's just trying to get back to work and lock back in for Thursday night.
Kian Schaefer-Baker was back out there today for the first time in a month. He's on game 5 of 6 on the injured list, but could be brought back this week. Ajo was also back today after missing a game. The Riders will be off to Toronto for a Thursday matchup. Game time Thursday is at 5:30 Saskatchewan time.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Employee pricing is on now.
And our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, joins me now. And before we get to the weather, credit where credit may or may not be due. I don't know who you talked to, but the 70% chance of rain we had on Saturday for that wedding on Friday, it didn't happen. We had the perfect day. So I don't know if you have more special powers than Ethan. I don't know if this counts as shots fired, but thank you.
Yeah, no, Ethan definitely taught me, you know, how to reach out to Mother Nature. She finally returned my calls and we were able to work something out for you, Sam. Might have to do that again today because we still have a lot of active weather moving through the province. The more severe conditions seem to be down in southern Saskatchewan. That's where we're seeing these severe thunderstorm watches because of this cell that is moving northeast. We've been seeing a lot of warnings pop up throughout the afternoon. Not here in Regina just yet, but that could change as we head into the late evening hours. That's when we could see that rainfall here in Regina. This system is going to continue to head northeast throughout the night, and as we head into tomorrow, that's when we'll start our day with mostly dry conditions in south and central Saskatchewan. A lot of that active weather will mainly be to the north, but as we head into the evening hours, that's when we see this cell move in to southern Saskatchewan, and we could see that here in Regina once again. So we're not going to be done with that messy weather in the province tomorrow just yet. And heading into Wednesday, a lot of activity, mainly in central central parts of the province and also once again to the southeast. So we're really starting to get a lot of that messy weather as we head further into August. Now, as for tomorrow, a lot of those severe conditions will be down in southern Saskatchewan, once again to the southeast like it was today, and also to the northeast. And as for the rest of the province, mainly just light conditions there. Now, today, a lot of hot conditions down south. We're still sitting below seasonal for our friends to the far north. Mainly seasonal conditions as we head into the Churchill region. But yeah, down south, daytime highs were in the low 30s, and with that, humidex feeling more like the mid 30s, and that's going to continue for tomorrow as well. And with all this active weather that we've been getting in the province today, very windy conditions, and we're still seeing that across the province right now. Most regions seeing wind gusts between 40 and 50 kilometers an hour. As we head into tomorrow, we're still going to be dealing with those windy conditions, but that'll definitely help cool us down in southern Saskatchewan as we're dealing with those temperatures in the 30s. Heading into Wednesday, still seeing windy conditions there. Now let's take a look at our 7-day forecast here in Regina. We're going to be met with some rainfall tomorrow, possibly even thunderstorms, and that's going to continue as we head into Wednesday as well. Thursday and Friday, seeing those seasonal temperatures once again and a lot of dry conditions, but that's going to change as we head into the weekend, mostly on Sunday, but Saturday's looking very, very hot, starting our week next week with mostly active weather in Regina. Here over in Saskatoon, a lot of dry conditions tomorrow, but as we head into Wednesday, that's when that'll make its way back in, but that'll clear out as we head further into the week, Sam.
I am on holidays next week. You keep that nice forecast coming, Ty.
I will try my best.
Thank you.
No problem.
Prejudice whites do not want to recognize black.
Legendary TV talk show host Phil Donahue has died. He is widely credited with revolutionizing daytime TV. The Phil Donahue Show countered the typical daytime programming of game shows and soap operas. It built a reputation with tough questions on hot-button topics like equal rights for women and minorities. He was also the first to include audience participation in a talk show. Phil Donahue was 88. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. In Alberta, the town of Jasper is slowly coming back to life, nearly a month after a third of the community was devastated by a massive wildfire. The Yellowhead Highway through town has reopened, but as Terry Reith reports, only very specific vehicles are allowed to stop.
I'm still standing.
His own home reduced to embers, a third of his town wiped out. Jasper's mayor remains optimistic about the future, but seeing people come back, says Richard Ireland, has been hard.
It is so tragic, and so I am there to do what I can to support my community generally and those individuals who might call on me for support.
The Yellowhead Highway through Jasper has been reopened to traffic, but officials are warning people not to stop unless they're residents, contractors, or helpers.
There is no checkpoint at the entrance to the community, but there is strong RCMP patrol with clear directives on that front. And just a reminder to visitors that there are no hotels, there are no restaurants, there are no businesses open, and we do need the space to get our residents and our businesses back on their feet. So we ask you for your kindness and respect in that.
Still, slowly the park is coming back to life. Meat Hot Springs, east of Jasper, is now open. The Icefields Parkway between Jasper and Banff could reopen in 2 to 3 days, but so far, that's the extent of it.
The backcountry areas have not yet been opened up for a variety of reasons. In some cases, we just haven't been able to have a chance to assess tree damage and other road issues.
The wildfire that caused so much damage is now considered as being held, which means it's not growing or spreading, and cooler, wet weather is helping crews to bring it under control. Still, there is no word on when Jasper National Park will fully reopen. Terry Reith, CBC News, Edmonton.
The Democratic National Convention is now underway in Chicago, and it's a unique chapter in the party's history. They have a sitting president not seeking re-election and now supporting his VP. Paul Hunter reports from Illinois.
With the Democratic Party convention in Chicago barely even underway, the lengthy lineup here, anything and everything Kamala Harris.
We got this.
It's clear, no matter the feeling Democrats had under Joe Biden just a handful of weeks ago, the feeling now in that party is that Harris suddenly seems unstoppable.
It is exciting. It is exhilarating. People have a new surge of energy that they have now, because when she wins, we all win.
I haven't felt like this since I was a kid, when Obama first ran in 2008. And obviously, like, the magic of, like, the energy is just so powerful.
What a turnaround it's been as Democrats gather to formally nominate Harris on Thursday as their candidate for the White House. Surging in the polls, including in some of those key battleground states, the next level vibe is tempered only by the reminder the election is still more than 2 months away and much can change. Key to Harris and running mate Tim Walz is to maintain the enthusiasm through to November to work to get the vote out.
We'll sleep when we're dead, when this is done, but not now. Not now.
Harris, Harris, you will see.
Indeed, there are hurdles ahead. Demonstrators outside the convention area reminding Harris they want action on the Israeli war in Gaza. A much smaller crowd underlining there remains an independent candidate who could siphon away votes. And then there's Donald Trump, who, despite the remarkable popularity of Harris, still has remarkably resilient popularity among Republicans. His backers, also in Chicago, on their views of a potential Harris presidency.
Socialism is death, destruction, shortages, and that's exactly what will happen if Harris gets elected.
Underlining a fierce, likely ugly battle remains, even if this week in Chicago, few here seem worried.
Everybody loves her. I mean, there's so much enthusiasm about Kamala, so I believe there's going to be a landslide. It's going to be a landslide.
Paul Hunter, CBC News, Chicago.
And Tyreek's back with one last look at your weather.
Thank you, Sam. We're still expecting some active weather to move through Regina tonight, but as we head into the overnight, that's when we'll be met with mostly dry conditions. Waking up tomorrow morning, we're not going to be met with any significant weather, and that'll continue as we head into the noon hour. But as we head further into the afternoon and heading into the evening hours tomorrow, that's when that active weather will make its way back into southern Saskatchewan, possibly even moving through Regina. So we're going to want to keep our eye on that. Over in Saskatoon, seeing lows around 19 degrees tonight with also mostly dry conditions. Waking up tomorrow morning to those same conditions and heading into the afternoon, we'll see those daytime highs creep into the low 30s. Sam?
All right, thanks, Ty.
No problem.
And before we leave you tonight, the first supermoon of the year, that also happens to be called a blue moon, is lighting up the skies tonight. Sydney, Australia was one of the first cities to catch a glimpse of the rare astronomical event. Patience paid off for those who waited despite an overcast sky. More cities witnessed the blue moon as the Earth turned. A supermoon is when the moon is at its closest point to us, making it appear larger than usual. The term blue moon doesn't mean the moon is blue. Rather, it indicates that it's the third full moon of a 4-moon season. It will soon be our turn to see the supermoon brightening the night over Canada. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or /Saskatoon. You can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or you can download the CBC News app on your phone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.